Alright, hey class, it's Trayvon Hubbard. I'm going to do a simulation of how I would teach the sales cycle in my classroom. So on one side of the screen we have YouTube, where the presenter on YouTube is going to go through quickly about the Mitoic sales cycle, and on the other screen is a handout that I would do in the classroom with my students, so that we make sure that there is guided and we're all on the same page. So there'll be note taking and watching the video at the same time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go through the sales cycle. So today we're talking about mitosis and how the sales cycle works. First we're going to do a quick review on how or what are sales. So in the past in class we would have went through what sales are, broke down the organelles that consist or that are inside of the cell. But today we're just strictly talking about the cell cycle. So the cell consists of three parts. You have the cell membrane, and I want to make it clear that in the classroom I would usually be writing this on the board and my students will have handouts, but I would have to do it on the screen now. But we would do the cell membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. Alright, so last lesson we talked about that the nucleus is one of the most important parts of the cell, because the nucleus is considered the control center of the cell. So just like our brain is the control center of our body, the nucleus is the control center of the cell. And also the nucleus is where DNA information is stored. Alright, and that's very important for when we get into the cell cycle. So let's talk about what the cell cycle actually is. So the cell cycle is a series of events that take place in the cell as it grows and divides. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that down as a class. The cell cycle is a series of events that takes place as the cell grows and divides. Alright, so the cell always starts out as a single cell, and other new cells come as from pre-existing cells. So those cells go through a process where they will divide and create new cells or create daughter cells, and those daughter cells become their own cells, which would again divide, grow, divide, and create other cells. So there are two types of two types of cellular divisions, and that's mitosis and meiosis. So meiosis, we're not focusing on that one, but we do want to make it clear. Meiosis is the cellular division of sex cells. So the sperm and the egg. Okay, so meiosis and mitosis have similar division, but the only difference is meiosis goes through a second phase where it creates actually four daughter cells. So that's the difference between meiosis and mitosis. Meiosis has two cell or cellular division phase, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, and at the end they will create 4 daughter cells, okay? But we're not focusing on meiosis today. We're focusing on mitosis. So I'm going to go ahead and make that bold. So mitosis is the cellular division of all other cells in the body. Of all other cells in the body. Alright, so that's your muscle cells, that's your skin cells, that's your brain cells. Any other type of cells in the body besides the sex cells is gonna go through a meiotic cellular division. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. That's gonna be a big key in knowing the difference between mitosis and meiosis. All right, so let's go through and break down. We're going to go through and break down each part of the cell division. So we're going to listen, and I'm going to stop and start the video as he goes through this example of mitosis, okay?
A process of growth and division called the cell cycle. These events include a growth stage, mitosis or nuclear division, and cytokinesis, or division of the cytoplasm. Throughout interphase, the cell is engaged in growth and metabolic activities. Interphase can be further broken down into 3 discrete phases called G1, S, and G2.
All right, so everybody can see on their paper that mitosis begins with interphase, and interphase is broken down into 3 parts. G1, S phase, and G2. So during interphase, the cell is going to grow. So the cell grows, and then it starts different metabolic processes that will prepare. So it grows and prepares the cell for the meiotic cell division. Okay. All right.
During the G1 or first growth phase, normal cell functions occur as well as cell growth. In the S phase, DNA replicates, producing 2 copies of each chromosome.
Okay, so in the G1 phase, remember the cell is growing and normal processes are still going on. So normal processes are still happening in the cell as the cell grows. During S phase, DNA is replicated. That's a big part of interphase. DNA is replicated. Okay?
During the G2 phase, the cell continues to prepare for mitosis and cell division. Mitosis.
All right, so during G2 phase, the cell is still preparing for the mitosis or the nuclear division. The cell spends the longest amount of time in the preparation phase of the mitosis cell cycle. So I just wanted to make that clear. So here we are, we're getting into the meiotic cell division.
Or the M phase has 4 stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. During prophase, the chromosomes become visible and condense, becoming shorter and thicker. Each identical copy of a single chromosome is called a sister chromatid. The nuclear envelope breaks down and spindle fibers form as microtubules grow out of the centrioles that move to opposite poles of the cell.
Alright, there was a lot of information during prophase. So let's break that down to make it a little bit simpler. So he said that M phase, or the meiosis cell division phase, is broken down into 4 parts. That's going to be prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Alright, so remember during S phase, the DNA is replicated, and in the whole interphase is preparing for that cell division. It's preparing for cell division. So prophase is the first stage of the cell cycle. Alright, so during this phase, DNA condenses. So remember, DNA in the nucleus started off as these wiggly chromosomes, kind of, or chromatids that condenses down, and they form sister chromatids. Alright, then the centromere of the cell moves to opposite ends of the cell, or to the poles of the cell, kind of like the North Pole and the South Pole. So they're going to move to opposite ends of the cell and create spindle fibers. Alright.
Metaphase, the double-stranded chromosomes line up along the equator of the cell. The spindle is now fully formed and the microtubules attached to each sister chromatid.
Alright, so during metaphase, the sister chromatids, or the double-stranded chromatids, line up in a single file line along the equator of the cell, kind of like the Earth again. The equator is in the middle. Those spindle fibers are fully formed and they attach to the sister chromatids. Okay, so again, the sister chromatids line up at the equator of the cell. And the fully formed spindle fibers attaches to them. Pretty simple.
Anaphase begins when the sister chromatids of each chromosome begin to separate. The centromere that holds sister chromatids together divides, and the chromosomes move away from each other along its spindle fiber.
Alright, so during anaphase, the centromere So the spindle fibers attach at the centromere, and then they begin to pull. So the spindle fibers